Hey guys, welcome to the episode. So in this one, we're going to install a set of gauges onto the car. When we really wind the boost up and start pushing things, especially with the KO3, we want to keep a good eye on things and make sure we're not going too far or melting anything. So today we're going to install a set of Savage gauges in the form of an EGT gauge and a boost gauge.
Okay, looking at our gauges and our gauge mount. These gauges, they're by a brand called Savage gauges. I had them on another car, so they're not new. Always found them a really good value, really good quality gauge. I think they look really fresh. They've got a factory look. The other thing I like about them is that the power cable, it links them in series. So you do not need a soldered powered cable to every single gauge. You feed the power cable to one and then it links to every sequential gauge. I looked at all the different gauge mounts. I don't like the ones that mount them in a vent. I like this brand, I like this style and where it sits. I actually got this off Marketplace. It's a bit of a steal there, but you can buy them from the States. So yeah, none of this is actually new, but it can be bought new and I'll put a link in the description to it all. Okay, a few key bits of wiring we've got for these. Firstly is our EGT wiring harness. That is already plumbed into our EGT sensor in the dump pipe. I dropped that off to my exhaust shop. He's welded up a nice EGT bung for me. So there it is, down there. That plumbs all the way into the back of the gauge. That one's pretty simple. As for the boost gauge, it comes in two sections. Firstly, we've got the wiring harness that goes into the back of the gauge, and then the actual little reference sensor sits inside the cabin and a vacuum line goes to it. I like on the Savage gauges that the boost sensor is divorced from the actual gauge, so you're not running a vacuum line all the way into the gauge. Finally, we've got some vacuum line. Do not buy the blue silicon vacuum line. Silicon's porous, it leaks. I don't know why people still use silicon for anything automotive. Get some proper vacuum or fuel vapor hose from your parts store. So we're getting our boost reference from the little adapter that's supplied by GFB. Okay, with that plumbed on, we now have to feed this hose and this wire through the firewall. So over in our passenger footwell, we want it to feed through this plastic grommet up here that sits up behind the fan assembly. Now the best way to get it through there is to just feed a bit of twine through first, like I have. Stick a screwdriver through the rubber grommet. It is hard to record, but it is over here behind the battery. In there, you can see where our twine has come out. So wrap the three of them all together in some electrical tape and that'll help you pull it all through. It's all wrapped like that. You shouldn't damage anything pulling it through. Okay, easy goes. I've screwed a little P-clip into here and I've found that's a good mount for the boost sensor. There we go. You remove this little plate and there's a single torque behind that. Once that's undone, this kick panel pops out. So we're now just running these two wires around into the back of our gauges. Okay, to install these gauges, a few bits of plastic trim have to come out. The first is the gear lever gator that pops out pretty easy from just underneath here. Next up are these two torques here and here. With those out, you're able to lift up this assembly here, and there's a few plugs in here that need to be unclipped. All right, with that out, with those plugs off. And next up we have the piece of trim that lies underneath here. Now I have already put the cables through it, but I didn't record it, so it's coming off again. go. So next up, drill 2 holes through this, probably about 12 mil. So looking down in here, you'll notice you have this plastic column. In front of these bolt holes, you have these 2 kind of eyelets. They're going to feed the cables above that. So they need to go both behind this back bar and through these eyelets. Otherwise they'll get jammed up against here by those panels. The same will go for our power cable. Okay, so up here on that kick panel, on the driver's side, and then this can be slid down to get a bit of access into the back of here. Now I was able to feed 2 wires very neatly and have them pop out right there. There's another 3 Torx holding this cover in, so I've dropped that, and I can then now run them up along here and through into my fuse box. So I've connected these to the harness using one of these sort of solder and heat shrinks combined, and then a piece of bigger heat shrink over the top, and then I'll tape it. Now for a clean source of power, I've used these. They're these things, they just piggyback onto an existing fuse. And I found the fuse at the very top right hand corner was well suited. It's a 15 amp fuse and it comes on with the ignition, which I tested. So the positive's teed straight into that, and the negative, there was a good little bolt there that I could get an earth from. So there we should have our power cable, our EGT probe cable, and our boost sensor cable. So after now our cables are fed through those holes, we can refit this piece of trim. Alright, so we refit this next, otherwise you won't be able to get it in once the gauges are in. Okay, I've just got some very high bond tape on the top of this to hold it in there. So we've got our gauges fitted now. We'll fit up our power linking cable. So now it's just power will go to here and sensors. So everything hitched up, and we'll just test that everything is working. Looking good. Yep, that's a check. Right, so I'm gonna get one shot at this. I'm a bit nervous. So you want this to pretty much line up with where this bit of trim stops. If you push it in too far, as I found, you can't actually open this, but you can get it all the way open there. So after they're all plugged in, gently pull through any slack from behind the gauges so you don't have a big mess in there. Pull it through, and I've just coiled mine up there to keep it tidy with some zip ties. Now all the trim can go back on. So all in and installed. I haven't taken it out and actually given it a proper run yet, but everything seems to be working. I'll fire it up, we definitely get vacuum. I'll let it warm up and see if we get EGT. But it's all looking well. Thanks for watching, guys.